When you look back at everything this team accomplished last season, it almost feels surreal. Week after week, they lined up and imposed their will on whoever stood on the other side of the line. It was one of those rare years where the offense didn't just execute, it overwhelmed. You could watch a full drive without even following the ball, because the Real story was happening in the trenches. The offensive line moved like a single living organism, collapsing entire fronts, clearing lanes, and draining the life out of defenses that dared to challenge them. It was old school, punishing football, the exact kind of identity this city loves more than anything. Those big men up front weren't just good, they were the core of everything. Each one had earned serious respect around the league, the kind of players who forced analysts to pause film and say, "Look at that." They were powerful, polished, and relentless, and the franchise invested heavily to keep that wall intact. And with that line paving the way, the star running back delivered a historic season that people around here will talk about for decades. He ripped off long runs like it was nothing, broke tackles in the open field, lowered his shoulder through defenders, and kept bouncing up as if gravity simply didn't apply to him. He carried the ball more than anyone in the league, stacked yard after yard, and hit the end zone over and over without losing steam. It wasn't just the production, it was the presence. Every defense that lined up against him knew exactly what was coming, and still couldn't stop it. He was the engine, the spark, the personality of the entire offense. There were games where he single-handedly determined the tone from the first snap. He crossed the 100-yard mark so many times that it stopped being surprising. It became an expectation, and when the postseason arrived, he didn't slow down. He elevated. Wild, rushing nights, explosive cutback lanes, breakaway touchdowns that shifted momentum in a heartbeat. He delivered one iconic moment after another on the way to the championship game. And yet, as ridiculous as his numbers were, the hidden stat that told the Real story was how much space he had to operate. Before defenders even touched him, he had room to build speed, pick a lane, and cut upfield. Last season, he was gaining yards before contact at a rate most running backs can only dream of. It was proof of just how dominant that offensive line had become. They weren't just blocking, they were erasing people. They turned the run game into a weapon that controlled clock, tempo, and physicality. When they had a lead, you could pretty much set your watch to what was coming next. Run after run after run until the defense wore down, broke mentally, and eventually fell apart completely. That's why this season has felt so jarring. Nobody expected the strength of the team to suddenly become a weakness. You don't go from bulldozing entire fronts to struggling to get a simple push without something being deeply wrong. And yet here we are, watching a ground attack that can't find rhythm, can't create explosives, and can't consistently threaten defenses the way it did a year ago. This team is still trying to run the ball often, still committed to the identity that brought them success, but the efficiency has cratered. The yards per carry are way down, the negative plays have piled up, and the offense keeps finding itself behind the chains before drives even get a chance to breathe. What makes it even more surprising is how similar the running back looks physically. He still explodes through the hole when it's there. He still accelerates like a player who knows exactly what to do in the open field. He still runs with balance and power. But he can't do anything when the moment he touches the ball, there's already a defender waiting in the backfield. And that has been the repeating pattern all season long. Instead of those clean lanes he enjoyed last year, he's getting crowded immediately. Instead of building momentum, he's forced to fight just to get back to the line of scrimmage. That's not a running back problem. That's an offensive line problem. You can see it in the numbers. His attempts are down, his yardage is down dramatically, and his yards per carry have dropped by nearly 2 full yards compared to last season's stretch at this same point. Explosive plays have practically vanished. The team has had only one game where he truly broke loose, and even that came with an unusually long run that felt more like a rare flash than something repeatable. Defenses are loading the box against him, selling out to clog the interior because they know the blocking isn't what it used to be. They're attacking gaps with confidence, shooting downhill without hesitation, and collapsing plays before they even begin. Meanwhile, the substitutions up front haven't helped. One key departure in the offseason created a hole that hasn't been filled with the same consistency or physicality. The replacement has moments where he's solid in pass protection, but the downhill dominance just isn't there. And injuries to other players have completely thrown off the chemistry that once made this unit so dependable. You watch the film and you see missed assignments, slow footwork, linemen losing leverage, and defenders getting penetration almost untouched. It's the exact opposite of what used to define them. The line that once played like a bulldozer now feels like it's reacting instead of dictating. The penalties have only magnified the issue. Every time the offense seems ready to settle into a rhythm, another flag sends them backward. False starts, holds, illegal formations, they've all become part of an ongoing pattern that keeps killing drives before they can develop into anything meaningful. When a head coach preaches discipline and details, yet the team repeatedly commits mistake after mistake, something foundational isn't being reinforced the way it needs to be. This team used to master the fundamentals. This season, it has slipped into the bottom tier of the league in penalty differential and pre-snap mistakes, and that lack of precision has turned manageable downs into uphill battles. And this is where everything ties together. A running back can't function when the blocking collapses early. A quarterback can't stay ahead of schedule when the offense keeps falling into long yardage situations. A team built around physicality can't play its preferred identity when the line can't generate movement. It's a frustrating chain reaction that has shown up over and over again, especially in moments where they should have been able to put games away. Even with big early leads, the lack of a reliable run game has allowed opponents back in, kept the defense on the field too long, and erased the control they used to have over the time. What really stands out this season is how often the running back is being asked to create something out of absolutely nothing. Last year, he could wait a split second, read the leverage, plant his foot, and explode through open daylight. This year, he barely has time to secure the ball before defenders are crashing into his lap. That lack of space changes everything. It forces hesitation, disrupts timing, and pressures him to bounce outside, even when the design calls for him to stay inside. And once a running back is forced to abandon the original track of the play, the entire structure falls apart. It becomes chaos, and defenses thrive when they can turn every run into a scramble drill instead of a downhill collision. You can feel the frustration building with every game. There are carries where you know he's reading the play correctly, but the moment he tries to turn upfield, there's a wall waiting for him. There are drives where he finally rips off a decent run, only for it to get wiped out by a penalty behind the line. And no matter how mentally tough a player is, facing a constant barrage of defenders in the backfield takes a toll. It wears on your confidence. It speeds up your internal clock. It makes you question whether to trust the blocks or abandon the play and search for something that isn't really there. When a star running back starts feeling that way, it's because the foundation beneath him is cracked. The offensive line used to be a source of certainty. When it lined up, you knew exactly what you were going to get. They were aggressive, violent, detailed, and always in sync. This season, those traits appear only in flashes. There are plays where one or two linemen win their assignment, but someone else loses his leverage completely. There are moments where the left side looks dominant on one drive and then collapses on the next. The consistency has vanished, and without consistency up front, nothing on offense can function the way it was designed to. That inconsistency turned into a massive problem in the matchup against Dallas. The team jumped out to a 3-touchdown lead, and normally that would have signaled the beginning of the ground and pound phase. Everyone in the building expected them to lean on the run, eat the clock, wear down the defense, and suffocate the comeback attempt before it could even start. But they couldn't execute that identity. Every time they tried to settle into a rhythm, something went wrong. Penalties pushed them back. Missed blocks killed the timing. Negative runs put the offense behind the sticks. And slowly, that early dominance evaporated. Not scoring for more than 40 minutes in a divisional rivalry game is the kind of thing that sends alarms blaring throughout an organization. And while the replacement lineman has held his own here and there, the drop-off in physical dominance is impossible to ignore. The player who left in free agency was a bulldozer, someone who changed the way defenses had to align. Without that presence, the line has lost its edge. Defenders no longer hesitate before shooting gaps. They no longer brace themselves for the impact. Instead, they attack with complete confidence, and the ripple effect hits every part of the offense. Pass protection becomes more stressful. The quarterback feels more pressure. The coordinator becomes hesitant to call certain concepts, and the running back becomes the one absorbing the punishment. The injuries across the interior have also made things messy. Chemistry on the offensive line is not something you can fake. It requires repetition, trust, and a shared understanding of angles and timing. When players shuffle in and out, when communication isn't crisp, even one small hesitation can blow up a play before it begins. And some of the veteran players who once served as anchors for this unit haven't performed at their usual level. There have been uncharacteristic losses in one-on-one battles, mental mistakes that never used to happen, and penalties that feel completely avoidable. It's almost as if the unit is trying to relive last season's dominance instead of building a new identity for this one. The numbers that show how often the running back is contacted behind the line are impossible to ignore. When your yards before contact drop by more than 1.5 yards from one season to the next, that's not a player problem. That is a structural issue that points directly to the trenches. Last year, he wasn't just good. He was untouched for long stretches of plays. He could pick up 10 yards before anyone even brushed his jersey. This year, he's fighting for survival. In one of the recent games, he finished with negative yards before contact, meaning every time he touched the ball, defenders were on top of him instantly. Nobody, not even the best running back in the league, can thrive under those conditions. The frustration isn't just on the field. You can sense it in press conferences, too. The coaching staff has tried to stay positive, but they know the tape is brutal. They know the offensive line isn't playing to its standard. They know the penalties are demoralizing and unacceptable. And it's hard to preach discipline when the same mistakes keep resurfacing week after week. Pre-snap penalties are the clearest indicator of a lack of focus and communication. Those flags don't happen because an opponent is overpowering you. They happen because attention to detail has slipped. And when you pile up more than 30 of those in a season, it becomes obvious that something deeper needs fixing. Even the head coach's core principles aren't showing up consistently. Last year, the team embodied toughness and unity. They executed the small things so well that the big moments came naturally. But this season, that precision has been missing. Mental errors, sloppy technique, and repeated penalties have drained the offense of its rhythm. And when the line loses its discipline, the rest of the offense cannot hide behind the passing game. Defenses become fearless. They start to dictate what the offense can and cannot do. That is the opposite of how this team is built to play. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The corridors around the NovaCare complex have been humming with an energy that feels less like off-season restlessness and more like the opening notes of a seismic shift. Word is spreading, quietly at first, then with the force of a locker room door slammed shut, that owner Jeffrey LURIE has pulled the plug on Nick Sirianni's tenure and delivered a message that is echoing through every corner of the franchise. The turnaround must begin now. Sources close to the organization describe the atmosphere as a mix of shock and inevitability. Sirianni's departure, though surprising in its timing, had been a topic whispered among staffers for weeks. Some insist LURIE grew increasingly frustrated with what he viewed as stagnation, a sense that the team had drifted away from the sharp identity it once carried. Others believe the owner has been preparing for this moment, waiting for the right catalyst to reset the direction of the franchise. Inside team circles, the mood is somewhere between anxious curiosity and cautious optimism. Assistants are said to be scrambling, evaluating their futures while keeping one eye on potential successors. Players, meanwhile, are reportedly stunned but not entirely blindsided. A few have privately suggested that the team's voice had grown muddled, its message less urgent. LURIE, it seems, noticed the same. The word immediate is carrying unusual weight in the building. LURIE's demand for a swift resurgence isn't just rhetoric. It's being interpreted as a mandate that the next hire must bring not only a fresh philosophy, but an instant jolt. Rumors about possible candidates are already swirling, some realistic, others bordering on fantasy, but all fueled by the same underlying tension. This move wasn't made for patience. It was made for impact. What happens next is still wrapped in speculation. But one thing is clear. The Eagles have entered a new, volatile chapter. And if the murmurs prove true, the shakeup we've seen so far may only be the beginning. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.